Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Sims of ChiroTouch. And I just want to welcome you to tonight's training webinar featuring Dr. CJ Mertz. He built his cash-driven, subluxation-based lifetime family wellness practice to over 1,200 visits a week. That's when chiropractors started visiting his practice every day from all over the world. This led him to begin his coaching program, which has now trained over 16,000 teams in 20 countries and spoken in 12 different languages. So tonight, you're going to be learning the 10 report of findings keys, which has led to record-breaking growth for several hundred practices just in the last 24 months. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. CJ Mertz.
Tyler, thank you so much. And I just want to welcome everyone onto this training tonight. It truly is an honor for me to be able to share these amazing keys, as Tyler said, that have just literally shattered records all across the country in the last 24 months. As you know, hundreds of chiropractors joined us last month for our first session. So I want to welcome all of you back. And there's that many more that are joining us for the first time in this second session, where we're going to be talking about report of findings. Last month, we went through the 10 keys to transform your new patient results. And I just want to say, this is sequential, right? So if by chance you missed that training, I'd love to have you be able to get back to it. It is available through ChiroTouch, and it'll just bless you. It'll bless you 10 times over. So you'll get so much out of this, and I'm hoping that you've got a journal. I hope you've got just a fresh pen, because there's going to be a lot of action going on. I also want to be able to say tonight, thank you. Thank you for taking time away from your family, to spend some time rolling up your sleeves and being with me. It means so much. And I know what you're going to get out of this, and that's going to be incredible. There's 3 groups of docs that are training with us tonight. The first are those that are having best results ever in their practice in 2023. That's 11% of all of you that are with me right now. The second group are those that are comfortable. You are comfortable in practice. That's 53% of you. And you're paying your bills at home and at work, and there's a little left over for a vacation here and there, but you're really looking to stretch. You're looking to actually see where you can take your practice to that next level. That first group, the record breakers, they're looking for that one shift, that one opportunity that can continue taking them on the roll that they're on. And 36% of you, on average, are having a tough time. And my heart goes out to you. I want you to know this too shall pass. I want you to know that what I have to share with you tonight has taken more chiropractors out of the gutter and into the palace than you could possibly imagine. So I want you to feel my energy. I want you to stay positive, and whatever challenges or issues or setbacks or obstacles that you may have been experiencing up to now, this is a new era, and we can do something amazing with it. Tonight, we're going to break down 10 keys in performing world-class reports. These, as Tyler said, are spoken in 12 different languages. I want you to understand, when I start to see something that is working at extraordinarily high levels for chiropractors in small towns, medium-sized towns, very large towns, as well as actually seeing them happen on the West Coast, on the East Coast, North, South, it becomes something that I realize I have to be able to share with as many people as possible. My clients, I had a huge training with them this morning, and a few of these, we actually just took that much longer. I don't have that much time with you tonight to break them down any further than I can. So I want to be able to just jump right on in, if that's okay with you. I want to get right after this so that you can start to see which of these 10 keys do you feel you're really doing well. My suggestion, you should score all of them from 0 to 10. Like 0 is like, I don't even know about this. I don't do this. 10 is, I'm a black belt at it. I am absolutely extraordinary at it. And then figure out where you are between 0 and 10 for each one of these keys. Number 1 is titled timing and tone. So let me just start off by saying that I was stuck in my practice at 100 patient visits a week. That was very kind for Tyler to talk about, growing my practice over 1,200 patient visits a week, but I was stuck at 100 patient visits a week. And I was blessed to have the right mentorship and the right guidance from 5 different individuals. And I look back and I know God sent them in the order that I needed them to have all the breakthroughs that I did. And that's what ultimately led to not only my success and growth in practice, I've been able to open, build, and sell 18 other practices. And as he said, coaching thousands and thousands of chiropractors. And what I can say right off the bat, these are almost in order, is that a chiropractor, he or she, must understand that you are not in the same state all day long. There is a state that you should be in your adjustatorium when you are with patients adjusting them. There's a state that you should be in when you're with new patients. And there's another state that you should be in entering your report of findings. I didn't know that. I had just a very small glimpse of that understanding. And when it became really clear to me what those were and how to shift states, the conversion rates in my practice skyrocketed. Well, I now see that in hundreds of practices all over the country. I get to get that feedback every month. So I'm telling you, this is not hypothetical or theoretical. This is as much halftime training as I could give you. This is a game changer. Reports must happen at report time. So we don't want to be in a situation where we're just coming out of the adjusting area and we were just having fun and there's smiles on your face and you walk right into the report room with your adjusting state and you're actually just smiles and you meet the patient and we're just really upbeat and smiling. This is very common. And I've actually surveyed that again just in the last 3 months. I can't even begin to tell you how damaging that is to a conversion result. So when you see on the screen, your game face, I need you to understand that in many times when I'm coming off the adjusting line and I've just taken care of a great number of people and I'm about ready to go into the report of findings, I may even put my hands over my face and just breathe in deeply and slowly get myself into the state where I'm going to need to share something with somebody that is perhaps the most important information they've ever heard from a doctor. What state would you be in to deliver that? And so as you start going through the rest of these keys tonight, I want you to be thinking about my state. I need to be thinking about my state, shifting my state, right? And just keep that top of mind. I want you to think about MDs. I have consulted with many, many MDs over the last 3 decades, and I want you to think about this. If an MD actually has a biopsy that is taken and it comes back positive, do you think the MD cares how that patient heard about their practice as they deliver the result? If an MD actually comes back with an MRI that shows a grade 2 tear, does that MD care how that patient heard about their practice as they deliver that information? If an MD actually does a blood test and A1C is just off the charts, does the MD care how they heard about his or her practice? If the MD winds up doing a blood pressure evaluation and the blood pressure is significantly high, do you think the MD cares how they heard about their practice in the way they deliver what it is they're going to do next? I'm giving you that for a primer to start this amazing training off tonight. You see, because there are those of you that are receiving patients, new patients, by social media, by Groupon, through various other means. And whether you know it or not, we're actually now attaching sort of how that person may have actually even come into our practice, even to the kind of, well, that's the kind of, we actually now give them a, oh, that's a Groupon patient, or that's a social media patient, or that's a fill in the blank patient. That's something MDs never do, even though they have the exact same type of patient. Somebody, for example, goes to see that MD because they accept their insurance, for example. They don't care about any of that, right? They have the game face to walk into a report room and be able to do it well. That's why they have extraordinarily high conversion rates. That's why my clients have the highest conversion rates in the entire profession. That's why I want you to listen to these keys so that you can start to say, wow, maybe I need to sharpen this one. Maybe I need to reinvent this one. Like, I just didn't even know that this was a thing. So let's keep the state then. And then finally, in this first key, how well are you scheduling so that you have a block of adjusting and then reports, as opposed to I start a report, oh my gosh, but there's 2 people waiting to get adjusted. And now I'm in this conflict of, do I shorten the report? Do I go out and say, excuse me, I got to go take care of a patient, I'll be right back? That can't work, right? That doesn't work. And so we need to look at then how are we scheduling so that when it's report time, you are focused. And that is all you're thinking about, is doing that report. And there's nothing else that is stealing or trying to steal your attention. Well, that actually then gives you the sense of, we're not even in the report room yet, right? That's the state that you should have before you ever walk into the report room. For those of you that have CAs and you've got a team with you, which is most of you, this second key is called the pre-close. And we're saying here, and I'm happy to give you more scripting as I did last month, the very language that my top clients are using all around the world. And this is what they would say. Dr. Mertz found, if this be my CA, Dr. Mertz found exactly what he was looking for and is prepared to deliver your report of findings now. This is the CA that is now routing this patient into the report room. Now, many times when a CA is routing a patient into the report room, the best that patient might hear is, I'm going to bring you into this room and Dr. Mertz will be in shortly. And that's okay, right? You know, from 0 to 10, that's somewhere between a 3 to 5, right? But that's not even close to a 9 or a 10, right? But when that CA leaves the patient in the report room and says, Mrs. Jones, I want you to know Dr. Mertz found exactly what he was looking for, and he's prepared to deliver your report of findings. He'll be in shortly. Just as I said in our last training, when that CA brings the patient into the report room, it should be T-minus 10 seconds or less that as she is walking out of the report room, you're walking in. We never leave a patient ever, not in the new patient experience, which we trained on last month, and certainly not in report of findings, where they're left for 2 or 3 minutes by themselves, because patients freak out. That will never help your conversion at all. I have a pre-report of findings video. The vast majority of my clients use that right before the patient actually gets the live report from you. That's okay, because there's an engagement where the CA says, Dr. Mertz wants you to watch this brief but powerful video. It's going to help you better understand the results that you're about to see. And then they watch the video. It's fabulous. I encourage that, right? That's different than putting somebody in a report room and they're by themselves. And then it takes you a couple of minutes to get in there. Just know that you put a huge strike 1, maybe even a strike 2 into that conversion. I say that so that when you think of these 10 keys, I want you to also think of these as, these are the 10 biggest mistakes that chiropractors make and that I see every day, every week, all month long. These are the answers or solutions, my friends, to the biggest mistakes that I see. Some from the doctor, some from the CA. So as we look now at going into this 3rd out of 10 keys, notice what's happening here with this report. This right here is one of the biggest issues in all of chiropractic. It didn't used to be. Like, we were fantastic with this 20 years ago, and today I can tell you it is as hit and miss as I have ever seen it. You need to start with bad news and then shift to good news. Many chiropractors that I survey today, there's no news. There's just information. Notice the difference. I can be talking about certain things that we did in consult, in an examination finding, and I'm just giving information. There's never a moment where there's bad news and there's good news. There's just information. We do not want to do information-based reports. That's not what draws the decision-making up to the point where the patient just clearly says, absolutely, doc, I'm ready to go, right? That's what we want. We want people saying yes. Now notice on your screen, it says, Amy, the bad news is, notice what state you would have, is I have found the nerve interference caused by 5 specific subluxations. Notice I put my hand up because I want to make sure there's a prop, right? Your hands are very powerful props, like the spine that we used last month. It's a prop, right? So the bad news is I have found nerve interference caused by 5 specific subluxations. 3 of them are more recent and 2 have been present for quite some time. Those of you that take x-ray, for example, would have that as an easy thing to say because the patient would be, let's say, in phase 1.5 of vertebral subluxation degeneration. Not information, news. And there's bad news. Now watch what happens here. This nerve interference, we're still in the bad news. This nerve interference is preventing your body, Mrs. Jones, from healing and repairing properly. So if we did the good work on day 1, the new patient day 1 that we trained on last month, do you know the curiosity level of this patient is extraordinarily high coming back for your second visit? Those of you that are trying to put a report of findings into the same day is a huge mistake for not only conversion, but rate of conversion, but for even the level of care plan that you could offer and that somebody would accept. So we want to make sure that day 1 is 1 visit and the second day is the report of findings. Please make a careful note on that. So notice there's information-based reports and then there's news-based reports. The news-based reports have so much higher conversion rates. And I just hope you know that, right? So you want to be able to tell them that there's bad news. Going back to the medical doctors that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, do you understand that is exactly how they're going to communicate? So somebody knows, hey, the bad news is that I did see this or this, and that concerns me, and that's an issue, and that worries me, and so forth. There's wording, language, and we talked about reverse power words last month. That's a real thing. So you need to ask yourself, when a medical doctor is talking about like a grade 2 tear, or they're talking about high blood pressure or a really high A1C or some type of biopsy result, where in your brain do you match interference, nerve interference and subluxation? Like if that isn't trumping all the things that I just said, man, you and I need to actually just have a chat. And I'd love to help you with that, right? Because you need to understand that you are representing not just chiropractic and an ambassador for chiropractic. This often, you statistically are the only chiropractor that person will ever talk to in their entire life. And so while there are some people that have seen 2, 3, 5, 10 chiropractors, that's the minority, right? What you need to recognize is you may be the only chiropractor, and this communication, they're not going to ever hear this from anyone else. So it cannot be information-based. It needs to be news-based, right? So we talk about the bad news, right? The bad news. Notice that 3 of them are more recent, those subluxations. 2 of them have been there for quite some time. You'll see where that comes back in your report of findings. So the nerve interference is preventing your body from healing and repairing properly. I can't even begin to tell you how powerful that phrase is. Like if you just walked out of here and that's all you got from this, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy that that's going to come into your next report of findings. Notice that I don't have to be right now very specific symptom or body signal based. I am actually cause based. And the more that you have a news centered report versus information, and the more that it is cause based rather than effects based, meaning their symptoms, you're going to see conversions even further skyrocket. Notice it goes to good news. So that's the order. The good news is that we have had great success in correcting this problem. So there's almost like, literally like the patient can breathe right there, which is great news. They're like, I totally heard what you said. This is bad. I do have what I thought I might have had last month that you were training with me on this last visit, right? Day 1. It confirmed everything that was in their mind last night. They're now back into your report and into your real office. And now they know they have it. Notice what's up on your screen. which is just so awesome. And the chiropractors that use this are winning like crazy. Do you know that if you looked at advertising today, millions and millions of dollars are being spent on what's called before and after advertising. Now, I'm going to bring that back into this picture here in just a minute, but I just want to understand the top advertisers who get paid the highest dollars to actually do the commercials that you and I watch on a regular basis, whether it happens to be through online commercials or TV commercials or wherever they are. But I know that I'm going to spur at least some thoughts for you right now. Remember that guy? You might not remember his name. Remember, he's holding these big, huge jeans that he used to fit into, right? And then he started eating Subway sandwiches. You remember that guy? Before and what? After. And then you actually look at another commercial and somebody's got all these blemishes. It might be a teenager, you know, but it's just skin is just blemished like crazy. And then they use this type of new particular treatment, right? And there's a lotion that you can put on your face, and then there's the after, and it's beautiful, supple, smooth skin. It's before and it's after. There's somebody else that's got yellowing teeth, right? And they don't even want to smile, and then all of a sudden they're using some new brightening toothpaste, some solution, and then there's the before, and then you can't even look at their smile because it's just too bright. You know, it's just so white. Come on, say yes if you get that, right? Put it back in the chat box. I got it, right? I got it, right? Why do you think advertising has gone that way? And I don't have enough time to actually give you the other 30 examples that you would all go, oh gosh, I remember that, right? Before and after, before and after. You need to recognize how powerful this is. Red lines and green lines, very simple. Do you remember I just had bad news and good news, right? Well, red is bad. Red is always bad, and green is great. Green is healthy. Green is optimal, right? And so when we're actually showing x-rays, when we're showing scans, when we're showing posture pictures, when we're showing bilateral weight scales, all of those are the top tools that you should be using on day one. You should be using all of those, and you should be able to do that in 30 minutes or less. Your consult, your exam and x-ray, 30 minutes or less. And again, I'd love to be able to review that, but that's all there in our last month's training. So you should have the ability to just simply put red lines where the subluxation is, whether you're looking at it P to A as we are on the screen, or we're looking laterally and looking at the curves of the spine, right? We can see where the red lines are. That's where the subluxation is. When the arrow comes on, as you see there, well, then it's very clear that patient can get a visual of, you just said there were 3 and there were 2 that are more long-standing. All of a sudden, these lines and these visuals are coming together so that I can see what a bad spine looks like and what a good spine looks like. Those of you that have the install, right? You have the install of ChiroTouch. And so the very next thing that you want to look at is what the ChiroTouch cloud product is. That software is outrageous. And in your chat box right now, if you are an install, it's right there. It's in your chat box. And there's a chance for you now to actually go right there. It's a Calendly. Just go ahead and click the link. Go ahead and schedule the best day and time to get a demo with Tyler. And I'm telling you what, you're going to be mind blown as to what the new version that ChiroTouch Cloud is and how it works. I want you to know that ChiroTouch itself enhances efficiency and productivity. I was talking to that team last week, and we were talking about just how, for example, how quickly in one click, when you're taking your x-rays, right, when you're doing your scans, that it comes right up into the file, and it's so easy to get right into that patient's notes. You can also split screen, which I love doing, my clients love doing, so we can show what a normal x-ray looks like. For example, a lateral cervical curve, again, that would be green line, a green arc, and then right next to it is their lateral cervical. And the red line's describing exactly where the subluxation is. Split screen comes up, and you use that in your report of findings. To me, I think that's an incredible prop to use. If you're not using before and after, oh my gosh, well, that's just another skull cracking moment for this training tonight. That is what the top converting doctors in the world do. I really feel that technology, procedures, and promotion come together in every one of my trainings, as we did last month, this month, and next month. And I just want to make sure you're getting the results that you are looking for most. Let's continue. So as we look at now the 4th key, we're moving along very nicely. We know that our tone, like the tone, the state that I'm in is everything. What the CA says before they put them even in the report room is everything. That I need to have a news-based, a news-centered, not an information-centered report. I absolutely must say bad news and good news. And so all of that's not adding, it's multiplying to itself. So this fourth key, which we call micro agreements, here's the simple but profound summary. You want your patient to say yes to you 7 times. How many times? That's right, 7 times before they make the macro agreement. And the macro agreement is that you've recommended X number of visits over X amount of time, and it's going to cost X amount of money. And so you're asking them at that point, how does that sound to you, Mr. Jones? And they say, yes, let's start right there. That's the big yes, right? How do you get more yes? Well, that's what all these 10 keys are about. This one right here, oh my gosh. If you are doing an information report, it doesn't mean your information is wrong. It means it's an information-based report. Those are the lowest converting reports in chiropractic today. So I would just throw that out. I could tell you right now, you could change your report like that. By the way, I'm going to be able to help you, and you'll be able to see here in just a few minutes how you can get a hold of me so I could really help revolutionize this. I could just literally be there and just help kind of custom fit it for you. I'm happy to do that for you. But right here, 7 times, right? And so I'm giving you already the prompts. They're on the screen. As you're doing your news-related and cause-centered report of findings, you'll notice that you would say to the patient, does that make sense, Mrs. Jones? Do you understand that that's the prompt for them to give that head nod? Yes, I do understand. Yes, I do say that. I do see that. Are you with me? Yes, I got that, right? Do you understand what I just meant by that? Yes, I do. Yes. The whole point of that is a nod of the head and a yes. So you have to understand, I do thousands of studies. I mean, I'm helping more chiropractors than probably anybody else in the world, right? And so when I just gather all that information and I'm able to see what chiropractors are doing poorly, and these are great chiros, right? I'm not judging the chiro, I'm talking about their result, right? Like these are poor results versus somebody that's just knocking it out of the park. Well, this one doesn't do any micro agreements. And they are thorough in their mind about the report, but they're unhappy about their conversion rates. So then I show them what these amazing chiropractors are doing in their report. They start doing it in their report, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, how did I not know that I needed to get 7 yeses, right? So I want you to build to the yes, right? If you're taking notes, build to the yes, right? That means I need little yeses, right? Little yeses. Do you agree with that? Yes, I do, right? And so those are called probing questions, or those are the micro agreements. They're literally in question form. How are you doing with that? By the way, have you been scoring yourself? So 0 to 10, how are you doing in micro agreements? I have learned also that the report of findings masters, the docs that are just crushing it day after day, week after week, they also have the shortest report times. They're not spending a half an hour or more in these reports. They're using these keys, and this is what they've learned. I can actually get to yes in a much more effective, efficient period of time. I'm not having to sort of talk them into it. So many chiros tell me, behind closed doors, they'll go, coach, you know what? It's just weird, but I feel like I just need to convince them. Like I'm trying to convince them. I'm trying to talk them into, like I have to sell them, and I get that. And there's a lot of chiros that are in that space. I'm telling you, you don't need to be there. And so as you follow this process, what you realize is you're moving, helping, leading, inspiring, and maybe most importantly, you're influencing the patient to make the best decision in their life regarding their health. This is how that is done. So we're looking for micro agreements. And then fifth, this number 5, this 5th key, which is massive, is objection management 101. And that is, do not answer questions out of order. You cannot answer questions out of order. This is the total debunk of a good report that now has gone south. What happened? Here's what happened, friends. How many times have a patient asked you a question, or kind of almost interrupted you, like you felt you were on a roll, right? And then somebody just goes, hey, by the way, doc, can you tell me how my insurance, how does my insurance work for this? can you tell me just how long this is going to take? Like, how long do you think this is going to take? I'm just curious, how often do you think I need to be here? Do those kind of questions, do those come up in report of findings? And you're probably smiling right now because you know that happens all the time. Listen carefully. It is totally okay for a patient to ask a question at any time. That's not the problem. The problem is you, my friend, are not allowed any longer to answer questions out of order. And if you knew how big that was, this number 5, you'd cement that in your heart and you just would know, I'm not doing that anymore. That does not lead to high conversions. It pretty much busts a conversion. That's, by the way, when you're out of order, the most common response that you hear from a patient is, you know what, I really get what you're saying, doc. I'm going to go home. I'm going to think about it. How many times have you heard, you know what, I need to actually talk to my spouse. Let me go home. I'm going to actually check my budget. I'm going to go home and think about it. And then how often do you see that patient again? See, I just want you to know the top converting docs in the world, they've had all of that. And they've shifted away from doing those types of reports. So they rarely have that anymore. But you need to understand tonight why. Why is it that they're somehow blowing through and succeeding when so many other chiros aren't? And these are cash-based practices, right? It's not that they won't accept insurance. I'm talking about that would be the most difficult, if you will, is the cash practice that has no insurance, and they're crushing it in their reports. They do not answer questions out of order. So somebody says, well, how long do you think this is going to take? And the response is what's called a segue. You want to give them an answer that puts it on the shelf, lets them know how much it means to you, and we're going to circle back to that. Mrs. Jones, that is a great question. And I'm going to be talking about that in just a moment. How long is it going to take to correct this problem? The first thing I need to have you understand is what the problem is so that we can actually commit to correcting it. So let me make sure that we know this first, right? So, and what does that do? That lets me to go right back into my rhythm. I am not out of rhythm. I'm going to talk about that next. Somebody says, what about my insurance? I go, you know what? That's a great question. And that's as important to me as it is to you. I'm going to actually talk about that in just a few minutes. But see, it won't really matter what your insurance participates or not if we're not clear on how long this is going to take for your body to heal properly. So that allows me to get right back in the order that I need to present it. So I'm going to address it by saying, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. You do not answer them out of order. Do you know that's probably the biggest 101 objection management I could possibly help you with tonight? There's so much more in number 5, but let me just actually let you know about the 6th key out of 10. And that is, and I would score yourself on that last one as well. Time, frequency, money. That is the order that you should be getting yeses. Those are also part of that micro agreements. So if you're putting a 3-month or a 6-month or a 12-month program together, and you're talking about this is how long it's going to take, Mrs. Jones, is your health and this health condition, migraines, low back, gut health, whatever it is this health challenge enough of a priority to invest the 12 months, the next 3 months, the next 6 months, whatever it is, correcting that problem, and then shut up. Wait for the answer. And if they get, and when you get, yeah, definitely, I've been struggling with this for too long. Yes, I'm committed. That's what you're looking for. And if you've been doing the report properly, as I've been constructing, that's what you're going to get most of the time. Sometimes you're going to get, well, can you tell me how my insurance works? How much is it going to cost? Notice that's a different answer, or maybe they're answering your question with another question. But once again, you know what? We're going to get to the investment here in just a minute, but it won't really matter if we haven't committed to the time that it's going to take for your body to actually repair. So let me make sure that you understand this problem that I've just described, maybe on x-ray, maybe it's through the bilateral weight scale, it's through the palpation, it's through all of the testing that you've done, and I go back through it again, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, I just want to make sure that you're ready to invest the time it's going to take for your body to heal and repair properly. Are you with me? Oh, yes. And then all of a sudden I get yes on time. So I'm going to stay on time. I'm going to stay on time until I get a yes on time. Once I get a yes on time, well, then it's 3 times a week. And that's how often you're going to need to see me, is 3 times a week, and that will go on for the first 12 weeks. And now I'm describing what that frequency is, and I immediately start talking about the benefits and how that actually brings down swelling and how that's going to actually allow us to create a greater range of motion, that which you have lost, and that we're now taking the irritation and the interference on the nerves itself, and we're actually starting to create the path towards alignment. Know that in the first 90 days, we don't expect correction. What we expect is change and improvement. And so now we're talking about the frequency, but we're building it on a yes, which was yes on time. When you get a yes on time, and then over the top of that, you get a yes on your frequency, and the re-exams are going to be every 12 visits. And we're going to start with adjustments, and then we're going to also do extension cervical traction. That's going to actually help your adjustments hold faster and hold longer. And that's why we do it. Anything that you do that's a therapy, we'll get to that here in another key, has to go back to making your adjustment king. But notice it's time, it's frequency, and then it's money. And when you get a solid yes on the first 2, money always follows. And so that leads us really to the 7th key. How you doing? I know I'm rolling through this, and I apologize for going so fast, but I do know you know about your reports. And I bet you've already gleaned something big, right? Which is, wow, I didn't even know about that. Or maybe I used to do that, or I've heard about that, but I've never done it. Trust me right now. The evidence is so big, right? We have proven this model over and over and over again, thousands of times across the country and around the world. This one basically says, don't read your patients, lead them. So I don't care if they're coming in with blue jeans, or, is this a Medicare patient, or is this a single mom? Like anything that might get us in our brain to get warped going, gosh, maybe I should just recommend this, right? Because of that. And I'm reading the patient. Don't recommend what you think they want to hear or think they can pay. Recommend what they need. And when you give your patients your best recommendation, something's going to change inside of you. And that then goes back to, I'm a cause-based chiropractor. Amen. That's who I am. And so I'm actually leading them to understand that's what I'm doing. I'm correcting the cause of what has led you into this health condition in the first place. This is my best recommendation. Now, if a patient, for whatever reason, simply can't say yes to your best recommendation, I just simply say, you know what, thank you for your honesty. I wouldn't want you to commit to a program that you didn't feel you could successfully complete. Watch this. Let me give you my next best recommendation. Please write that down. So for my clients, they're recommending 12-month programs. I've led each one of them carefully to understand how to do that. There are a few states where they don't do that. And I can talk to you offline about that. But then their next best recommendation is the first 90 days of that 12-month program. And they say yes to that, right? So extremely high conversion rates by just understanding the process. We're not going to read people. We're going to lead them, and we're going to give them our best recommendation. Well, that leads then to bundling your services. So this 8th key, which is massive, is bundling your services into one complete care plan and then offer savings. So there's the retail fee, perhaps the cap fee, and definitely a one-time savings. My average client is averaging just over 25%, closer to 30% of their practice is prepay. And so you have to ask yourself, how often are you having a patient pay for the full 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or a year? And I will tell you, hands down, all over the world, the very best patients in all of chiropractic are the patients who prepay. They never miss visits. They do all your homework, right? They don't show up late to their appointments. They tell other people about what's happening in their practice. Fantastic referring patients. Prepay patients, they're the best patients in all of chiropractic. Now, not everyone can prepay, but if they can't prepay, then we actually get them into an auto charge or auto debit. I prefer ACH because now you're not getting charged the interest rates off credit cards, which is really simple, right? We just auto debit off of a checking account and it's automatic. So on the first of every month, we're going to go ahead and charge $300, for example, from their checking account. And we're going to do that for the next 10 months. For those of you that are going to use credit cards, the same thing, a MasterCard, a Visa, American Express, whatever it is, on the first, we're going to just auto charge. So by the time we're done with the report of findings, we're not talking about money with that patient again. It's already been completely handled. There is no more over the counter, right? So if you are in a practice where there's still people paying you over the counter, I'm telling you, you will have the lowest retention rates in all of chiropractic. So we want to solve all those problems, right? So we're talking about conversion, but your conversion can also lead to low retention based on how we do it. So isn't it interesting that the financial transaction has a lot to do with the fruition of longevity with that patient? So we either do a prepay or there's an auto charge process. I'm highly, highly encouraging you to move in that direction. And again, I can help you with this. So bundling your services into one complete care plan. If you are doing extension cervical traction, or you're doing some type of spinal traction, if you're doing some type of electrical therapy, physical therapy, if you're doing decompression, for example, I'm giving you some examples of other services other than adjustments. Here's what you want to do. When you bundle it, you're describing that there's something other than the adjustment that they're going to also want and need because of the conditions and because of the findings of your case, right, in the report of findings. My whole point of this is anything else that you're recommending should be to improve the opportunity for the adjustment to hold faster and hold longer. You want to make the adjustment king. When we have practices that have multiple services, it's all too often the patient really doesn't know and they're confused. That doesn't mean they're not getting it. They just don't know what's working. There's different reasons why I have different things and they don't really add up. And that's where we see dropouts and people missing visits and canceling visits and rescheduling, rearranging visits. And all of a sudden, before you know it, this is a patient that while they really enjoy you and they've been getting some good results, they just aren't here anymore. And we wonder why. As we bundle additional services, it's all about the reason why we're doing this is going to actually help reduce the inflammation that's going to help your adjustment hold faster and hold longer. What does that mean? That we're getting that interference off your nerve system faster and longer so your body can heal and repair. See, the story doesn't change from one condition to the next because the nerve system is the master healing system. Say yes, put that in the chat box, right? The nerve system is the master system. I know you're with me on that, right? And so as a result, multiple services can create a wonderful case average. I can't tell you how many chiropractors that I train now that have care plans that are anywhere north of $5,000 to $12,000 or more, and patients are paying cash for these. Not even any insurance that's necessarily being used, with very high conversion rates, using the exact same keys masterfully as I'm talking about. Otherwise, it just seems to be a lot of services that you have available. Even if insurance pays or starts to participate for some of them, it doesn't change the confusion that the patient has, and the dropout rate proves that, right? So bundling your services and bringing it back to making the adjustment king, you can create much bigger conversion cases and much bigger case averages. Speaking of being able to help you, just go ahead and scan this right now. So I want you to know, as a result of being with me tonight, you get 30 minutes. You can just get in 30 minutes with me right now. That takes you right to a place where you can just put your name and your email and what's the one problem that you want to solve in the next 90 days. Spend 30 minutes with me in a practice evaluation. I guarantee you we're going to start solving problems that are happening in your practice. It may be report of findings, but it may be outside of report, and I don't have that time right now to do that. I want to apologize in advance. There are so many of you that are on this line training with me, so I want you to do that as quickly as possible. Schedule your time, and I just look forward to sharing that time with you. I would also suggest you show up with 5 questions, 8 questions about how you want me to help you during this practice evaluation. So when you look at the 9th key, which is talking about significant others and spouses, again, this is just skull cracking, right? And this was something I wasn't good at early until I realized what the difference was in my conversion rates. And I just want you to get this. Those doctors around the world who have the significant other or the spouse involved in the report have head and shoulders higher conversion rates than all other chiropractors. And maybe you just didn't know that, right? And so tonight, I'm giving that opportunity for you to see this. Now, technology has helped us tremendously because now with FaceTime and with Zoom, the patient ideally brings their spouse in with them, right? So they're face to face. But I can't tell you, probably 50% of the time, my clients have the spouse, but the spouse is there on FaceTime, on literally a iPad, or it's a Zoom. And they wind up being able to actually see the x-rays and see the scans, and they hear what you're saying. And there's that moment where you're giving that recommendation. You've been getting your micro yeses. Everything else is the same. It's as if they're right in the room with you. And so you make your recommendation. So Mrs. Jones, this is what I'm recommending. How does that sound to you? And now you have these two, and he might not even be in the room. Well, it really sounds important. Honey, I think this is something you need to do. And I'm just shutting up and I'm letting them actually talk. And then one or both of them turns back and goes, yeah, we're ready. We need to do this. And I say, fantastic. And then I'll just turn back to Mr. Jones, for example. It might be Mrs. But I'll just say, I know how your time is short. I wanted to make sure that you could hear this. If you need to get off now, I'll let you go and I can finish this, with Cindy. Okay, great. Love you, honey. See you later. And then there it is. We're done. And we've wrapped up that. This right here is a game changer. And so as with the other 8, when you start to understand that the more I have spouses involved in the report, the better my conversion rates. Finally, with number 10 tonight is about just house rules. I do want to make a mention that for every one of you that's already scanned and you're scheduling into my Calendly right now, thank you. It's awesome. And I apologize. I'll probably only do about 50 of those, and then I'll do my best after that. But I have something that's called How to Be an A Patient. For every one of you that's actually already in Calendly or you're going to get into my Calendly from that scan, I'm going to make sure I send that to you so that when we do our practice evaluation, you're going to see what my clients use. Think about it like this. Would you rather have a practice full of A patients, B patients, or C patients? And the answer is so obvious, right? But what I want you to know is the average patient in a chiropractor's office is a B minus, C plus. And one of the reasons why is that we did not teach them or lead them how to be an A patient. I know that almost sounds too simple, but there is just a set of steps that we do right at the beginning. So when you've converted that patient, they actually then walk through, you or your CA walks through how to be an A patient, because by being an A patient, you're going to get the absolute best results and have the best experience ever in our practice. We encourage and we look forward to you being our next A patient. Well, a patient that hears that doesn't want to be a B or C patient, but they would not have known how to be an A patient. So just know that I want to send that to you, and I'm excited to send that to you. House rules, that's something that you should have like a signature or at least an initial next to the house rules that you have. I don't think you need 100. I've never had that, like 100 rules, but you should have at least 7 to 12 that are go, no, go, right? This is how it works. And this is about getting to your workshop. This is about being on time. This is about, missing a visit and how you make it up. It's about how you pay. So there's not 100 of them, but as you're going through it, they're literally initializing and they're agreeing. Why would you want to do that now? Here's why. They haven't made any mistakes. This is not like going to the principal's office. Like, this is how you're describing how they'll have the best results possible is by following these house rules. And so that's why we have these rules, so you can have the best experience and get the best results possible. That takes about 3 minutes max, and they've actually initialed and signed it. And so there are the house rules. When you set your standards high in the beginning, they remain that way for life. So now we're talking about not only increasing the conversion rate, because I do that before they actually convert, the retention rate on the other side is crazy good as well. So I want to be able to say, in conclusion of these 10 tonight, these 10 keys, which we just whizzed by, I know, and I apologize. I want to make sure that you get the top chiropractors in this country that are converting yesterday, today, tomorrow at the highest rates. I'm talking about 80, 90% conversion to 12-month plans, putting together $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 care plans. We've actually been able to reverse. Some of you that are looking to get out of insurance, let me help you with that. For those of you that are using insurance, but you're trying to figure out, like how to actually fix it, like how to move to cash, let me help you with that as well. So I look forward to the opportunity of serving you. I look forward to hearing that you're going to wind up getting your demo with ChiroTouch. And I look forward to seeing you next month for the third training that we have all set up. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us, and God bless.